Podcasting from Portland East to Portland West, from Big Pine Key to Pacific Beach, and from San Juan to Guam, this is All Across America.
Remy Connor, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. You're known as the Inked Magician. My question to you is, what came first, the ink or the magic?
Well, it has to be the magic, because I started when I was 13.
Gotcha. Okay.
My Jewish parents were not going to support getting tattooed. So yeah, I started magic at 13, and there's actually it's funny. When you perform like this, you end up taking most of your life and learning how to tell that story, right? So, like, I talk about this in my show as to how I got started. I say there are three things that had to happen back to back for me to be absolutely as obsessed with magic as I am. The first thing was that I was 13 years old. It was the end of middle school, right? So it was about like May timeframe. I saw David Blaine on TV, and I thought, oh my God, that's so cool. And then the next day in school, everybody was talking about him. So I kind of thought, if I learn magic, I'll make friends. That actually didn't really happen, but I realized that magic could be that thing, right? It could be that thing that allows me to talk to people. After that, it was the summer. I went to my parents' friends' 30th, 40th anniversary. You know, the things you go to when you're 13 years old and you don't really have the option to not. So I go and I'm practicing magic in this corner, and a very drunk guy comes up to me, watches me do magic for about 20 minutes, and then gave me $40. I'll never work again. Like that was the immediate thought. And then after that, this was about a month into high school, and I'm skipping class because sure. And I'm skipping the class, and I walk down the hallway, and I see this girl, beautiful blonde girl, throw herself out of the gym. She flings herself against the wall, collapses to the ground, just bawling her eyes out. And I look at her thinking, I gotta get you to stop crying. But I was a 14-year-old boy, and I didn't know how to do that. I did the only thing that I knew how to do, which was, hey, pick a card. 3 minutes later, she was laughing and smiling. We were just enjoying ourselves much more. And that moment made me see how much of an impact that magic had. So in about 3 months, I learned I could meet people, I could make money, and actively connect with the world. For that to have happened made me a magician today.
And it's very different, I think, than a lot of other types of performing to me, because it requires that storytelling, having a sense of humor, that pitter patter, that mentorship. How do you see it as a stage performer versus some of the other disciplines, we'll call them?
I think that magic needs all of it. And that's what makes it difficult, right? You can't go on stage and just look at this guy who's practiced this thing, right? You have to, I mean, so there's several reasons that make magic very unique, in my opinion. One of them is that you're not just doing a thing that you practiced. You do have to perform. You have to tell a story. You have to, whatever that story might be. Sometimes it's just simple, follow where the card goes, right? There's no more to that story, but you still have to tell that story. There's still blocking and punctuation and putting your voice up, putting your voice down, right? Like, when do you slow down when you speak? When do you speed up? You know, all of those things have to come in. But magic has also a very unique version of it, which is that it requires an audience to exist. It's about the only art form that truly does, right? Because, like, this banner behind me is considered a painting. If I'm not here, it's still going to be there. It's still going to be a painting. But if magic is real and I see it, well, it's not amazing, because that's my everyday life. That's normal for a magician. If you are not a magician, or if you then come in and see the magic happen, you then get to say, wow, that's impossible. And that's where the magic truly pops up. So it's strange. You need somebody else, right? Like, A painting will be a painting. Even a comedian can find their own jokes funny.
True.
You know what I mean? Like they don't need an audience. Like, oh man, that was good, right? But for a magician, it's always, oh, will they get it? Right? Like there's that part to it, and it keeps you on your toes. Let's just say.
And how did you develop your stage presence? I mean, one of the things I love about magic, and I like entertainers, I like performers, I like the fact that James Brown used to spin around, making sure that the shoes of all of his band members were properly shined. And today, I mean, that's why I can appreciate a Taylor Swift, a Lady Gaga, even though their music may not be my thing, because they're entertainers, they're out there,
Right.
costume changes. In some bands, they look like they just got off the yoga mat and they showed up to perform. Whereas, like magicians, it's truly about that stage presence. It's about wearing oftentimes a three-piece suit. How did you get into that? Tell us about that.
So in magic, a big part of that story is what's normal, right? Like we have to be able to introduce what is normal and what's not. So if we want something to seem unsuspicious, we have to treat it regularly, right? Um, so if you're asking the question of how do you develop those kinds of acts, right? Like how do you develop clothing versus the props that you use? I think the best answer is to reflect it from your own life or what your own story is. I love wearing a suit. That has nothing to do with being a magician. I love wearing a good suit. I've always respected people who have a good suit. I've respected people that appreciate what goes into making one. So when I perform, I like to portray that. But I also need to make sure it looks like a normal suit. Right? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And how did you develop your routine? I mean, maybe you can walk us
Oh,
through the different kinds of magic and.
sure. So I developed the act that I'm in. It took me a while to get to this point specifically. I've been at it now for 22 years, and I've written a new show almost every year. Finally, I've gotten to a point where I kind of understand who I am, what my life has been, and what I want to express. And developing that has been incredibly fun, but very self-reflective. You have to look at your own life and see what comes out of it, right? So I wanted to tell a story about what life is like as a magician. It's not normal for other people, right? Because being a magician, you can walk into a bar, sit down, and be bothered by people within the next 5 minutes, only because somebody overheard you're a magician, right? You're not sitting at the bar as an accountant. Somebody leans up to you and goes, "Hey, man, did you do my taxes?" Like right now. I mean, right now. Would you mind? I got my tax work here. But the moment somebody finds out you're a magician, they say, "Hey, show me a trick." I wanted to reflect that. Show people, hey, we have this. This is what the life is like, and I get to enjoy it. So for me, my entire show is about traveling. It's about finding magical items on the road. It's about the places I've been, the people that I've met. I have a whole section where we talk about gifts from many cultures, and they get to choose a gift from that culture. Right? So that's, for me, that was what it was about, because that was what I lived my life doing, meeting people, talking to people, and sharing those stories.
And so would you say your routine is more stage magic, parlor magic, table magic?
I wrote a show that wanted to go in between all of them. Right. So when I'm on stage, the props that I use are just a little different. They're a bit bigger or more vertical. If I'm performing close up, it's more like horizontal on the table. Right. But in magic, you'll have, I think it's mainly like 5 or 4 categories. There's stage magic, which is being on stage in front of a crowd, generally like 200 people or more. These are your Copperfields, your Lance Burtons, right? Your Chris Angels, where you see them on the stage. And to me, the line of where it becomes stage magic is whether or not you could rush the stage. Right? Hear me out on this. This is my theory. The further away you are, the more amazing it is, but it's less magical. Because if I feel that I can't get on stage before the security guard can stop me, I feel like there's a disconnect between me and the prop that's on stage. But when you move down a category, which is what we call parlor magic, imagine comedy club, imagine like a coffee shop, something where you're still standing in front of a group, but it's more intimate. I think those shows magic really excels because you feel you could run on stage and grab the deck of cards out of the magician's hand, right? Then you have close-up magic, which is actually kind of what we're in right now, right? It would be me seated at a table, maybe 10, 15, 30 people seated or standing around. And then the last would be walk around magic, which is quite literally what it sounds like. Imagine 500 people at a party and you're just walking up to groups of 1, 2, or 3 at a time entertaining.
Gotcha. Okay. And I guess there's escapism, there's illusion, there is card
So in those
magic.
categories, it does change as well. How many magic tricks do you think there are?
Tens of thousands, I'd imagine.
There's 10.
Wow.
10, right? Because David Copperfield will make a Statue of Liberty disappear. I'll make a quarter disappear. We both just made something disappear. What it is doesn't really matter, right? Because the amazing part that somebody's going to say is, it was there and now it wasn't. Right? Like that's what people will say at the end of it. So if you break it down like that, there's only 10 different kinds of magic.
Wow.
And just to backtrack for 1 second, I feel that you have to define what magic is. And to me, magic has always been defined as something that creates a state of wonder and is impossible. Those two things, I think, have to be there. You can create or you can instill a sense of wonder. You get that when you see your wife give birth, right? Oh my God, this is, right? Like that feeling of a heart just pouring out, right? That wondrous sense. But that doesn't make it magic because it happens. That's
there are 8
possible.
billion of us.
Right, exactly. There's so many. It's not impossible. It's a thing that happens. On the flip side, I've seen many impossible things, but that doesn't always instill a sense of wonder. I think you have to have both for it to be real magic. So with that being said, something like escapism is great, but it doesn't fall into the category of magic to me because there's a method, right? He's escaping. He's escaping. You don't know how, but he's doing something, right? To me, that doesn't quite fall in. It's on the outskirts, right? It's kind of like Sideshow or the Sword Swallowers or the Fire Eaters. It's all near it.
Right.
To me, the 10 categories of magic are to make something appear, to make something disappear, to make two things change places, right? To transform one item into another, to make something levitate, to make something animate, right? Imagine you have you draw a bee on a piece of paper, and now suddenly the bee starts flying around, right? It's animation. You have the impossible penetration. That's the linking rings is the best example of that. Ring through ring. It goes through each other, but it can't do it. The restoration, which is impossibly putting two things back together, right? Maybe you tore a card apart, which you can do, but you can't put it back. So to do that would be magic. All of mentalism fits into one category of mentalism. Okay. No matter what, you're using your mind to do the thing. If you're using your mind to read somebody's mind, you're using your mind to predict the future. You're using your mind to move an item with your mind, right? That's all falls in the same category. And then last but not least is the impossible objects. These are things that should not exist in the real world, and yet they do. It's the hardest one to define because once you see an impossible object, technically it's no longer impossible. But the best example I would have would be MC Escher's stairs, the staircase paintings that he has, or like the Penrose Triangle, where each side kind of goes into itself. It can't exist in real life, but yet there it is. If you look up Penrose Triangle, you'll see exactly what it is that I'm talking about.
Yes.
But yeah, or you could go into like magical props. Like I have a teapot that I've been using. It's a very small gold teapot, and yet we produce coins and things out of it.
All right. And so within that, I guess we've talked about coins. There are cards that can produce all
Mm-hmm.
disappearing, reappearing. I mean, could the realm of and there are so what are the realms of magic in terms of materials? I guess there are cards, there are coins. You don't see coins too much anymore, I guess, because nobody's using coins.
Yeah, nobody's carrying change anymore. Excuse me. I carry that's something that's very hard to answer because it's per magician, right? What are the
Yeah.
things that exist in your life and what do you use? Like I know guys that don't do card tricks at all because they just don't use a deck of cards in their lives. It's never there, it's never a part of it. Uh, I pull things, and this is what makes I think a good magician is when they pull from what's surrounding them and the things that they know. So I like, for instance, I just added what's called a book test into my show. The whole premise is you hand somebody a book, they pick something out of the book, and you tell them what they read. Either you read their mind as they do it, you predict what they read, or you read their mind for a word on a page, whatever it might be. I do that for two reasons. One, I am turning my house into a library. That's my goal. Turn my entire house into a giant library. I want
Wow.
books everywhere, hanging from the ceiling, hanging from the kitchen. I want them falling off. I want books everywhere. So now I've picked up some of those and brought them into my show. Right. The other reason that I use books is because I'm currently writing a show. I'm writing how I became psychic, but using the 5 love languages as motivation for each section of the show.
I like
In
it.
it, every year for Christmas, I buy my bestie the same gift. And it's the reason I buy her this gift is because of act of service as one of the love languages. Acts of service is just giving somebody time, essentially, right? An act of service would be you clean the house every day, I'm getting you a maid, right? So the gift that I give her every year is a new book, whatever book it might be, and a place to read it. For her, it's a great gift because that's the only thing she doesn't have. She has 4 kids. You know what I mean? She got 4 kids. She got a husband. The husband has an ex-wife, and they have kids. So there's just all of that jumping around all the time. She never gets that time to herself. So for her, that's a great gift, and that's the reason I use the books in my show. So that's why I say it's up to every magician to find the things that they want to use. Generally speaking, you'll see card tricks, coin tricks, things with pens like Sharpies are incredibly common among magicians. Uh, but yeah, that's where you're going to find most of the props.
So tell us a little bit more about the show you're developing and the show you're currently working on.
Okay, so the show that I'm currently performing is called The Rhodes Scholar. It is about the beginning of being a magician and how I got to where I am. So it's about just starting magic, the people I've interacted with, and the people that we miss. Right. The question we have to ask people throughout the whole show is, where are you going? Right. Where are you going to go see something? Where are you going to go? What's your next goal, and how are you going to get there? So that's what I've been performing for about 3 years now. I fell in love with it. I'm having so much fun with this show. But the one that I'm developing is kind of like an annex of that show, right? That if you see this, think, oh, that's amazing. How does he do it? Well, that's where this mentalism show comes in. I heard about another magician named Luke Jerme, who's actually also British, like Simon Lovell is. So it's funny to have that connection in there. But he wrote a show called How to Write a Love Letter, and it was about his love of magic. And without seeing his show, it sparked so many interests in my mind that I said, all right, let's do that. So essentially I'm writing my own love letter to magic.
Wow. Okay. And you mentioned Simon Lavelle, and I've got a lot of books, and that's how we connected. I've got his
Yeah.
How to Cheat at Everything. I also have
How
Never
to Cheat
Split.
at Everything.
I saw this book on your shelf, Never Split the Difference, about negotiation as your life depends on it. I'm a big fan of negotiation. Just as an aside, I have a guy that's considered the world's greatest negotiator, Herb Cohen. He's going to be on the show next month, so I'm going to be at his house in Brooklyn
That's
Heights.
amazing.
Yeah, he's
That's
really,
amazing.
really living legend. He's 94, so very excited for that. But tell us about Simon. Simon.
Oh, Simon is the story in itself. Let's see. So I met Simon 11 years ago. We met because the girl that I was dating at the time, we bonded over a show called White Collar. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
So we bonded over this show, White Collar, and turns out they had hired a con man magician as a consultant for the show. His name is Simon Lovell. So we bonded over this show, and it was Valentine's Day, and she was going to New York, and I thought I got to get her a gift, but she's going to be in New York. She's always wanted to go to New York Fashion Week. So I took a little note out of the White Collar book and did everything I could to lie, cheat, and scam my way into getting her a ticket into Fashion Week, and we did. We got her in. She was so excited to be a part of this, just absolutely loved it. But now we kind of built, the stakes up. I gave her a really good gift, so she was like, I got to beat you. So I found out secretly she was reaching out to Simon behind the scenes. And she had reached out to him. They had coordinated this thing where for my birthday, we were going to go out, see his show, and then get dinner with him afterward.
Wow.
So we go out. We're there. I'm shocked, right? We walk in. Oh my God, we're seeing a magic show. We're seeing Simon Lovell's show. This is amazing. Simon walks up to me. He goes, "Oh, you're the birth." I can't do a British accent, so I'm sorry. But he goes, "Ah, you're the birthday boy." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Let me buy you a drink." And he makes me a drink, puts his hand over my shoulder. We took a photo together. He then leans into my ear and says, "It's very nice meeting another sociopath." We watched his show, had a great time, and then afterward, she says, "Let's go out and get a bite to eat." We go, we eat. He doesn't eat, he drinks. All right. This guy just drinks. At the time, that was all he just drank. I never saw him eat. It was crazy. But we go out to this bar, we're laughing, we're having a good time, right? And it's getting to be like 10 o'clock at night or something. The bar is starting to close down. And Emily says, "Well, we got to go," because my parents were living out in Long Island. We had to catch the last train out to Long Island. He says, "Okay, yeah, it was great meeting you." Or we could go to a bar down the street that I love to go to. We look at each other and say, "Oh, that's a great idea." Backtrack 1 second. She and I are dressed to the nines. Okay. I'm in a full three-piece suit looking great. She's in this beautiful black evening gown looking wonderful. And we go to dinner and we're drinking. We are so far gone. We start exchanging stories and analyzing how or why the chicken crossed the road jokes. Like, that's how far we are into this, right? We start going into why the chicken crossed the road. Well, we don't know. Maybe he's coming back. Maybe he's already crossed the road once and has to return. Like, we got into this joke. You wouldn't
The metaphysical side of the chicken.
Yeah, it was a rough night. We're sitting there, we're having a great time, and suddenly the manager comes up to us with a tray of drinks. He says, "This is for you. These are on the house." "Oh, great. Thank you." He said, "We just need you to do one favor." We said, "Well, sure. What is it?" He says, "Can you get up?" We look around. They shut down the rest of the bar. They picked up all the tables, all the chairs, everything had closed down. We were literally the last three in there, minus a bartender and a manager. Okay. So they gave us the drinks. We go to leave. We start trying to hail a cab, right? Nobody's stopping. So I'm like, I know what to do. I take out a $20 bill. I'm flashing it in the street. Nothing. I know what to do. I'm just drunk enough to put my leg out in the street and start lifting up my pant leg, and a cab immediately pulls over. We put Simon in. We send him on his way. And then Emily and I get into a hotel. where we get into a cab, the next one that comes by, and she says, I need you to bring us to the nearest, cheapest hotel. Go back to the way that we're dressed. The driver leans back and says, excuse me, ma'am, I don't do that in this cab. We realize he thinks that she's a hooker. So we look up a hotel. He drops us off at the hotel, and we're trying to walk. I mean, I am quite literally talking. I don't know who was holding up who. We get upstairs. We pass out. We wake up in the morning. She says, where are we? I don't know. Open up the window. There's a wall. Okay. She then says, when did we get to Pennsylvania? Excuse me. We turn around. We got to Hotel Penn, right above Penn Station. So I said, oh, okay. At least, good. We're just in New York. We're not in Pennsylvania. Thank God. We get back to Long Island. Simon calls me. He says, I had a great time with you last night. Let's keep in touch.
Right.
For the next 3 years, I'd visit him in New York. I'd stay at his house. And he would just share stories about his life. We would watch movies, just movies that influenced him. We'd see old performance videos, old videos of him working with other magicians. We'd go out, play pool. We'd scam people. We would, hustle all about the pool halls. We'd play poker games with people. I mean, Simon was one of those people that he didn't mentor me about magic. He mentored me about life. And he was, I say he was, he's still alive. He's so much fun to work with. And it just showed me that life really was about having fun, and it really was about the story. And that was the thing he always pushed. He always pushed the story. And I can tell from when you read How to Cheat at Everything, how true is that? Right? Every chapter, there was a story about Freddy the Fox. Right? Remember that?
Right.
Every chapter, there was a new story. Everything had the thing around it. And that was what made it so interesting.
I mean, that's entertainment.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it is.
In its purest form. I mean, stories, whatever culture it may be, if you want to be able to impart something, start with the story is what they say.
Mhm.
So,
It's very true.
you mentioned one of your YouTube videos. You were talking about having a mentor, and I guess Simon was that to you amongst others. I'm sure. I mean, what would your advice be to young people getting into the magic world?
A mentor is not necessary. It's not. You can learn on your own. I will admit the things that I learned with Simon had to do with his view on life. Right. So I had to always take that with a grain of salt, because to me, it was about the influence that it had.
Yeah.
But when it comes to finding a mentor, the thing that if you really want one, you have to be annoying. You ever watch the show New Girl?
I've heard of it, never watched it.
There's a line in it where they're talking about this girl is trying to meet a guy at a wedding. And the advice that they give is called bite-ing. Just be there. Just be there. He's going to get food. Be there. He's talking to his mom. Be there. And at the end of the night, when he's about to leave, be there. The same thing kind of applies with this. If you want somebody to mentor you, be there. They don't want to take on a new student. Most people don't want the hassle taking on a student. What they want is the student that's willing to do it. They want the student that's going to be there. They want the student that's going to keep showing up, right? So if you find somebody and you meet them, don't lose touch with them. Text them, call them, invite them to dinner, and they're probably going to say no. And that's fine. Let them keep saying no, because one day they'll say yes, right? The same advice does not apply to picking up women. No means no. But in a mentorship, it's a very different scenario, right? It's one of those things that you just have to keep at it, because you're never going to walk up to somebody and say, hey, I want to learn from you. And they're going to go, great, meet me in my house every Friday.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. What you got to do is show up at their house every Friday. If they have a show somewhere, show up to that show. And then not only that, and this is the hard part, do the things they said. Do you know how many students I've had where they come in and they're like, oh, we'll do all this. It's like, great. But then they never did it.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're not doing the work, I'm not going to keep teaching you.
Yeah, yeah, you got to do your
Yeah.
homework. You got to practice. It's I
Yeah.
mean, I've been in that same boat trying to learn an instrument. I'm a big music fan, not so
Oh,
much
great.
not so much a musician. And part of that is, you take lessons and you got to put in the time. Otherwise, you're wasting everybody's time.
Oh my God, it's so true.
We were talking before the show about, I think we were around the same age, 13, 14, when we both got into magic, and it was always instilled into me. There were two principles of magic. One, never do the same trick twice to the same audience, and two, never reveal your secrets. Do you feel like that's changed? You've been in the business 20 plus years, particularly about revealing secrets.
Um, I will answer the revealing secrets. The first one's a little shorter. Never repeat the same trick twice. Uh, yes and no. That still applies, but it also doesn't, I think. Uh, some magic requires surprise, right? Like it requires that element of surprise. So you have somebody pick a card, you drop it into a bag, you take out a knife, you stab through the bag, you rip it out, there's one card. But then at the end, a shot glass appears inside the bag. Okay. The ending is surprise, right? Once you do it a second time, that surprise is no longer there because they expect it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to not repeating a trick, it's about just figuring out what the best trick to do is, right? You can repeat it. There's several tricks that I love repeating because once you know what's going to happen, it becomes even more amazing.
Right.
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 Hey, name a number, you name a card, bam, the card is at that number. Amazing. Do it again. You can't do it again. And then I say, go ahead. Name a card, name a number. Well, now they know it's going to be there. Now all the attention is on it. And yet when it still works, it's even more incredible.
Right.
After doing magic for 20 plus years, I have found the other side of it. Never reveal your tricks is a terrible statement. Because if you're implying that there's a method to it, you're implying it's not magic.
Right. That was going to be my question. Trick, is that even an acceptable word in the magician community?
I don't think
right?
so.
Yeah.
I don't think the word trick is the acceptable word. I think the word is effect, moment, right? A trick implies that, hey, I'm tricking you. I'm fooling your eyes. I hate using that phrase around people.
Yeah.
Yes. But yeah, to me, when people say, how do you do it? Just say magic. There shouldn't be any other answer. That's it.
That's it. That is the answer. Yeah, that's it.
And I will tell you, since I remember saying in the beginning, I'd say it like cheeky, right? I'd be like, oh, magic. I'd say it with like, a cute smile or something.
Right.
But now whenever I get asked that question, I try to answer it with absolute conviction. How did you do that? Magic. And I let the answer sit. I let it settle with them. And I've noticed that as I've started saying that, people start responding much better to it. Oh, maybe, right? Like, because now they're not getting the answer that they wanted, but then they realize there's nothing more to the answer. That for me has been a big change.
So maybe you could talk about some of the audiences you perform in front of. You've got corporate clients. I don't know if you've done cruise ships, great magic towns, drunks, children.
How I Met Your Mother says that there's no better audience than a drunk audience. It's only half true. It's only half
as long as they're not belligerent.
Yeah. No, I've had some. The funniest belligerent audience member I've ever had. I was performing in the Chicago Magic Lounge, which there's several magic lounges around the country. But I was performing in the Chicago Magic Lounge, and there's this guy like midway through the room, pretty drunk, but not being mean or rude, just kind of talking to the people around him loudly, right? Like he wanted some attention on him. And at the time, I was doing this thing where I'd place a box inside of a bag and I'd have to hand the bag to somebody. So I took the shot and handed it to him. Figure I'll make him a part of it. He picks up the bag and immediately hits his friend in the head with the bag. I was dying laughing. It was so, I mean, when I say he just went, oh, thanks, boom, nails him in the head, comes back, sits down, and was quiet for the rest of the show.
Yeah, to get it out of his system.
I could have never planned for that, but oh my God, was it a funny moment. And that was one of the things that taught me people love magic. Skeptics, hecklers, everybody. If they love magic, if they hate magic, everybody actually loves magic. And that was when I learned that skeptics and hecklers are only there because they believe in magic. Because they believe more than everybody else, but they want it to be true. Right? Oh my God, this guy is amazing. All right, I'm going to put your card down. Is that really my card? Because if that's really my card, then this is magic. But you probably did a little switchy thing, right? So that's the thing that goes to their head. They want it to be real, so they go for it. Corporate events I always find funny because you have a bunch of people that aren't at work hanging out with people that they work with in front of their boss that they work for,
Right.
trying to be relaxed, but also not really, right? Because they're like, yeah, it's just fun. I'm having a great time at my boss's party. I can't get too drunk, right? Like, there's that side to it. So they're usually just looking to relax and enjoy themselves, see some magic, and laugh and have a good time. So those shows I keep lighthearted, intimate, fun. You have like private birthday parties, which are really just people looking to have a good time. But those parties I have found you can do some great magic in because they're willing to go with you for the ride. It's nice, it's intimate, it's close. So they're willing to ride with you into whatever territory you want. Like I talk about an ex-girlfriend who passed away. I would never do that at a corporate show, but at a private party, absolutely we'll talk about this because that's going to really hit with these people here. I'm sure that they've had a friend who's passed away. You know, they've had a friend that they haven't seen in a while that they really want to, whatever it might be, those things hit. Drunk audiences can be fun as long as they're not so drunk that they can't spell, you know, like there's a line, right? You also have to make it simple. So this way, it's really just kind of adapting bits here and there to whatever thing your audience might have. I actually hate performing for kids. Not that I don't like kids, right? It has actually nothing to do with children. It just has to do with where children are in their lives. Magic is less amazing to children because they believe in magic.
I like that. I hadn't thought of it that way. But
right? If I make something vanish, you're going to look at that and say, oh, okay, but matter can't be created or destroyed. Where did it go? But kids, they don't know that. Oh, it vanished. Wow, that's amazing. It's the color purple. You've never seen it before. Wow, that's amazing. It's all things that they've never seen before. They don't know the rules and the laws of the universe. So to them, it just all fits in that same category of incredibly new. Adults, we know what's real. So to see something that's not, mind-blowing.
Yeah. I think for parents on the flip side of the children, I'm sure they love magicians because it keeps the kids quiet and entertained for an hour.
You know, yes. And it's funny because there have been so many events that people hire me, and this was early in my career, probably like around 10 years in, where I've had to say, look, just let you know, I'm not a glorified babysitter. Right? If you wanted somebody to keep your kids occupied, you could have spent 1/10 of the money and gotten this person to come out. Right. So that's one thing I try to avoid. When people ask me about my show, I say I do a family show, meaning it's for kids and adults. Like the adults have to be there. And then follow up with my show is very much like a Pixar movie. Good for the whole family, jokes for the adults.
Gotcha.
Right.
Nice.
And it's always told like very oh God, what's the word I'm looking for? But like very nicely, like tongue in cheek. It's told in a way that the kids won't get it.
Right.
Right. So there's a lot of innuendo that allow the parents to be happy. And then if any kids do get it, I have a follow-up line. It's not my line, but who am I to mess with perfection? He says, and he'll say the line, he goes, "Oh, you can laugh. The kids don't get it. And if they do, it's not my fault."
Any gigs you'll turn down?
Honestly, no. Like, I want to say yes, right? Like, I want to say that I would turn down a gig. I just believe everybody deserves magic at their event. You know, the only reason I'm going to turn it down is because I'm already doing magic somewhere else. But even then, I'm still going to find a way to make it work. You know, if that means, I'll tell you, New Year's Eve, I had 2 gigs. They were 30 minutes apart. One ended at 8, one started at 8:30. The gigs were 30 minutes away from each other. I still did them both.
Wow.
You know, I will do magic at any event because I think magic belongs at every event.
That's awesome.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to do it the same way, right? Yeah. I'm going to figure out the way that works best. So if we get to a party and everyone's just kind of sitting around doing nothing, well, now we're going to turn that into a show. But if we get to a party, we're supposed to do a show and everyone's sitting there talking, hanging out with each other, that's walk around magic all day long. And I'm going to transition it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. You know, so I'm going to figure out the right way to do it. But yeah, I have yet to find an event that I would turn down.
Wow. And you talked about that venue in Chicago. We were talking earlier about the Magic Castle. What other kind of like iconic magic venues are there in the United States?
So to say iconic, it is just the Magic Castle, right? If you want to use the word iconic, it's been around, I think, since the 20s. Don't quote me on that. But it's been around for quite some time. They've really established a name for themselves in LA, in Hollywood, as the place to go for magic. But since then, other places have jumped up and fallen over the years. There's a place called the Tower Bar, I believe, in Aspen, Colorado.
Okay.
Some great magicians there, but the place is closed down. And, you know, you can see the magicians that have grown from it. There's a guy named Eric Mead. And I am blanking on everybody else's name that was in there for now.
That's all right.
Maybe a guy named Doc Eason, I want to say.
I know.
But it was a place you could go for magic. They were magician bartenders. And they would 10 bar, and once in a while throughout the night, like every 30, 40 minute, whatever it was, they would do a show for the whole bar. Wow. Everybody there. They do a big bartender show. You have Chicago Magic Lounge, has really built a name up for itself. You have a place called Speakeasy at McKittrick. That's in New York City. It's put on by Todd Robbins. Are you familiar with who Todd Robbins is? And for the guests that are listening that aren't familiar with Todd Robbins, probably the greatest sideshow performer alive today. He's the guy. You know, does glass eating, sword swallowing, human blockhead, walks on broken glass, does all of it. And he's been doing this close-up magic show with various magicians at the McKittrick Hotel in New York. Oh my God, there's a place in Salt Lake City that I think also has a place in Tennessee.
Wow, okay.
And I'm sorry to be blanking on the name.
It's probably in Dollywood. Had some performers, had a juggler on the show that performed at Dollywood a couple years ago. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, and I've been to not only have I been to the Magic Castle, but both my wife and my youngest son have been on stage at the Magic Castle.
Oh, that's amazing.
As volunteers.
Dining.
my wife was amazing. My wife was 6 months pregnant at the time. So.
Oh my God, that's a funny joke.
And you know, it's funny because whenever you see videos of the volunteers at the Magic Castle, they always try to pick the pretty ladies in the audience. So they
with social media today, yeah, that's what you're picking, you know. There's also a place called Mystique Dining. I just looked it up. Okay. There's one in Salt Lake and there's one in Tennessee, and there's like a place called Keller's in Georgia. they're starting to really like pop up, just these little magic venues.
That's great. I really feel like there's been a resurgence in magic, and in the city, there's quite a few performers that have residencies, which has been great. I feel like I've seen many of them. Haven't been to Speakeasy, so that's one of my next stops. But well, I see you got a deck of cards in front of you. Maybe we could jump into a little
Oh
magic. What do you think?
man, I always got cards on me. Yeah. No, I mean, if we were to turn the camera, I literally have a row of playing cards. Actually, I spent a bunch of months filming YouTube videos reviewing them.
Yes,
So we'd
yes.
we'd open up the deck, play with it for a little bit, and then do some magic that was inspired from the design on the deck. Like we had one that had toucans on it. So the whole routine was about cards that would travel from one packet and fly into the other packet.
Wow.
Um, it's funny. I did 1,000 shows in 2023.
Oh my goodness.
1,000 shows. I was working at a venue, and that ties into actually what we're doing here. I was working at a venue where we were doing 6 shows a day, 5 days a week. And then I was
Wow.
working at another venue where we were doing 12 to 15 shows a night, 4 nights a week. And I honestly had so much fun.
Wow.
But I jokingly say that I did every single show with a deck of cards. Not this deck of cards, but a deck of cards. And I feel like as a result, I've gotten much closer with the cards. Like I feel like they're on my side. And I realize that's an odd comment to say. Like if I had you pick one of these, it'd be really hard to do because you're through the camera, right?
Yeah.
But if we just kind of go like this, we'll go like this. Give me a number 1 to 52. We'll pick whatever cards at that number.
14.
14. Fantastic. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Now we have the card here. I'm going to turn so you can see what the card is, right? Actually, I'm going to turn all the way back here so I'm not secretly looking. Can you see the card?
Yes.
Okay. Turn back around. Cards down. Bam. Fair. Yes? Sorry, we'll try to keep this on camera the best that we can. Now, as I said, these cards are on my side, meaning that they will give me whatever it is that I ask for, which I realize is a weird claim. Because how do you ask the deck of cards for something? Right? They don't have ears. They can't really listen. They don't have fingers to give things out. So we have to ask it by spelling to it. For instance, if I wanted a red card, I would just have to spell the word red. R-E-D. And we get a red card.
Wow.
Okay, that's only 50-50. I realize that it's far less because, okay, it could have worked. Don't worry, it works with black. B-L-A-C-K. We get a black card.
Oh.
Okay. It works for values, right? Like here, we have a king here. We'll go for a king. K-I-N-G. We should have a king.
Yes, indeed.
There's a 5. We'll go for a 5. F-I-V-E. We got a 5. If we go for the value of the card, maybe a heart. H-E-A-R-T. We got a heart.
Nice.
Right up there, right? We go for a spade. S-P-A-D-E. We got a spade.
There it is.
Club. C-L-U-B. We got a club.
Nice.
Diamonds. D-I-A-M-O-N-D-S. We even get diamonds.
Magic.
But, and this is where things would normally change because I'd hand you the deck and I'd say, but you could have thought of any card that you wanted. You picked out a number, we went down to that number, and your card was at that number. Yes? What was your card?
8 of hearts.
The 8 of hearts. So we'll spell to the 8 of hearts. There's E-I-G-H-T. So that's 8, right? Of O-F, yeah. H-E-A-R-T. 8.
Whoa!
Hearts.
There it is. Wow.
As I said, they're always on my side, no matter what, for here and forever.
I mean, 1,000 shows. They gotta love you. You gotta love them.
Yeah, everybody's got to love each other. That's where we're at. It's how it goes.
Could
You know.
we maybe do a mentalism piece?
Oh yeah, yeah. Actually, I was gonna branch off a little bit from there because card tricks are fun. The problem is that at the end of it, people say, "Well, that was a card trick. That was cool."
Yeah.
Right? Like you kind of get that side of it. One of the things I love doing is reading a good story and making it a reality. You ever heard of a book called The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue? No. The first thing that I sorry to stand up. The first thing I do want to ask you, now, Mark, it is possible I could have looked up your birthday. It is possible there are things that I could know just because of the internet, right? So I'm going to ask you to come up with something now that I wouldn't know, which is there a time in your day that stands out to you? A time that maybe you look up at the clock and 6:56 just pops up frequently. It's something that you notice. Or is there a time that you look forward to? Oh, hey, every day at 5:17, the sun sets over there and it makes a rainbow pattern on my wall. That happened at my friend's house. So every day, sun was setting, we get a rainbow pattern. So we kind of look forward to that time. Do you have one for you?
Yes.
What time is it?
7:30 a.m.
7:30 a.m. And why 7:30?
So my youngest son gets on the school bus, and we get a chance to spend 20 minutes together just sitting on the couch. He watches a little TV before school. And for me, I've cleared out the dishwasher and made my coffee, ate a little breakfast at the kitchen table, and I'm done with all that. And then I just get to sit with my son and watch, I don't know, Is It Cake or whatever, funny funny show he's got on TV, and we get to spend that 25 minutes together, just the two of us.
So it's like a father-son bonding
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
I came up with this idea because of this book, The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. In it, there's a devil character where when people meet the devil, they'll do a deal with him. And at the end, they're given a watch. Because, right, they're going to not do a deal for money. Obviously, they're going to exchange something for their soul.
Yeah.
And the watch doesn't tell you what time it is, but it tells you how much time you have left. I always thought that was an interesting idea, so I started to incorporate watches into my performance. You watched me set this watch. You saw me take it out. I set it to a time, put it back. You said 7:30, yes? We can get that right up there.
Wow, that is 7:30 on the money.
Yeah. Now, in a close-up show, we give the watch to somebody. We say, here you go, this is for you. This is my watch. You don't get to keep my watch, but I promise you don't want to. We're going to give you a watch, and on the watch, engraved on the back, is a motivational word for them. It's a reminder that no matter what, time just keeps on going.
Sure does. Well, Remy, it's been a pleasure, and thanks for being on the show. And how can people find out more about you?
Oh, let's see. Posting on social media. So Inked Magician is pretty much the easiest way to find me. I try to make it easy, Inked Magician.
Yeah, I
I
like
got a
it.
website, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. TikTok's back. Woo. Because it was gone for so long. It was like what, gone for like 3 hours. But yeah, those are all the places you can find me. Yeah, yeah. Oh, YouTube as well. Sorry.
Yes.
So generally, we tend to post some longer format videos on there. It's usually me talking about magic or playing cards or showing full performances. When you find Instagram and TikTok, this is more just for the camera. It's
Right.
usually the things that I am working on because I wanted to create this kind of world, right, where you could see my show where I do a card trick in it, but then you could go to my Instagram and see the basic versions of it and where it grew to.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So, like, the best example I have for that would be if I floated something big in my show, like, let's say I floated like a 5 pound weight on Instagram, you'd see me learning to move something, float lighter things, and eventually building up to that point. So, like, that's kind of the goal that we're doing on the social media page.
Awesome. And you've got a great line on YouTube. You said, if you want to see more of me, subscribe to my channel. And if you want me to see more of you, come to one of my shows. I love that.
Oh, thank you.
That was an awesome
Thank
line.
you.
One last question before I forget. You're the ink magician. Do you incorporate any of your tattoos into your work?
Oh, yes. Tremendously so. They've I love tattooing. I'm not a tattoo artist myself. It's like painting through canvas, not on it. It's like painting through it. Like, imagine if you had to paint something, we had to go through something else first, right? First of all, that to me is incredible. But I love the idea of tattoos because if you know what they mean, you get somebody's life story, right? Like, I tattooed my interpretation of the Eightfold Path from Buddhism on my fingers. I've incorporated my belief system so this way I can talk about them. It makes it as an easy conversational topic. Also included fun ideas, like I have a light bulb on my chest because why not? I pull a light out of it. I'll share the video. I have a spool of thread where I pull a piece of thread out of it. We have a coin purse that we pull coins out of. I even have a magic wand on the finger.
Wow, I like that.
Thanks. I'll show you something with the magic wand. You know, you ask about it, right? Let's see if we can. Oh, here, we'll do it this way. So let's see, what's my frame on here? Oh, that should be good. All right, so magic wand, right? It's pretty simple. If we just point the magic wand at the paper, it'll fall. It's a weird idea, right? Because you watch the wand, you got to charge it just a little. You can see the electricity running around it, right? You got to charge it just a little, and then you give it a little pull. Now, some people think that I'm blowing on it, so we'll actually place the glass in front.
Ah.
Right. So again, sorry, we do the same thing. Give it a little. The water makes it a little harder.
Oh.
There we go. Right? And you know, even if it's that, it'll work.
Nice. You literally have a built-in magic bag on your body.
Quite literally, it is always here.
Well, Remy Connor, the Ink Magician, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being on the show, and everybody listening, please check him out. All right.
Mark, thank you for having me. This was so much fun. I love doing this.